What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Twisted Twenties podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to reminding you of your God-given purpose through personal testimonies, trials, and personal revelations. I believe that God has called and created each and every single one of us with a purpose, for a purpose, but it is up to us to align with it. I'm your host, Louise, and I hope that you enjoy today's episode. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Twisted Twenties. It's your girl, Louise. I'm so excited for today's episode. I know I say that every episode, but I genuinely love what God has called for me to do. Today, I have a special guest. This is literally the love of my life outside of Christ, okay? The love of my life. He's someone who has been with me through thick and thin. I have watched him transform into a mighty man of God. I have seen him change in so many ways, and his transformation and his testimony with surrendering to God and trusting God with his future is a testimony that I think that everyone should hear. I believe that he has a very unique perspective on trusting God with your future, with your finances, with your life in general, just primarily because of the things that he's gone through and what he's currently going through. So with that being said, I would like to introduce y'all to the love of my life, Mr. Daveion Turner.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? My name, as you heard, is Daveion Turner. Also, I'm glad to be on here with the other love of my life besides the Lord himself. So I'm very excited for the episode today. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's a pleasure being on here, by the way.
Of course, babe. You know, listen, we've done several episodes together, and each episode I always get like a little bit, like doing an episode with you always makes me nervous. I don't know why, but it just does. And I could primarily do an episode with anybody else, but for some reason when I'm doing it with you, it just makes me nervous. But I really and truly, I've just enjoying the transformation that you're experiencing, and you can just see the glory of God upon your life and just upon your transformation. And so I really wanted you to come on Twisted Twenties to truly share your testimony of trusting God with your future, even in the midst of uncertainty. Yeah. And with everything that's going on in the world, this is not a time for us to be consumed with everything that's going on, but for us to keep our eyes on God. And so I just want to have you share what your life has been like, one, since you surrendered to God, but also what life looked like before you surrendered to God. I know firsthand that you used to struggle with wanting to control your life, wanting to be in control of every situation. And I know as a man, it was primarily the finances and, making sure the house is straight and covered and bills are paid and things like that. But I also understand that that's also where you took a lot of spiritual attacks and spiritual hits was with your finances. Yeah. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. Like, what was it like for you in the past when it came to you wanting to control your life, wanting to control finances? Like, why were you like that?
Yeah. All right. So I can say that best examples that I had for me growing up of learning how not to struggle was looking at my grandmother and my mom. They always were providers as well. I grew up with them. My dad was in Houston. My dad's absolutely awesome as well. So I grew up with them, and they always made a way for things. You feel what I'm saying? It wasn't really too much like dependent or anything like that. So it was more like what's the word? Independence. So when a little bit later in life, I had well, let me jump into how to I really started craving control over my life. Let me say that. I started craving control over my life when I just started college, so about around the age of 18. My grandmother and my aunt Louise, may the Lord rest her soul, those two great women, really kept me in church. My aunt Lois was a teacher for the church. She broke everything down for me. I mean, she kept it 100% real. But between her and my grandmother, that's like really where I got my substance from God, where I learned who God was. So then also my old youth pastor as well, Reverend J. Those were mighty people in my life during that time. That's how I got to know God. Now, where that came into it, control was when I was 18. I was, you know, what I mean, I was kind of in a rebellious stage. You feel what I'm saying? Like fornicating. You feel what I'm saying? Smoking, stuff like that. And
We all been
yeah,
there. We all been there.
it's
Yeah.
cool. You feel what I'm saying? It was a stage in my life. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm not encouraging, but without those stages, I wouldn't be where I am today. You know what I'm saying? God can always use your mistakes
Yeah.
and turn it around for His glory. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's
we
true.
I got one of my cousins had passed in jail, and after that, it was kind of like a downward spiral. I was in a relationship at the time, and my mom and my grandmother, they were very protective because my uncles and stuff, they used to be, I'm speaking this into existence. My uncles used to be involved into the streets heavy, so they didn't really want me to be in that atmosphere of it. I know I'm kind of like I'm trying to give y'all everything before I get to the control thing, so it's all gonna come together. Just
It's
rock out
okay.
with me. So they were really controlling. So like they always tried to shelter me from certain things. If I'm saying not trying to be smothering, but that was their way of protecting me from the streets and stuff like that. So um they didn't really approve of the relationship I was in at the time, but I was sitting like, hey, this is the relationship that I want to be in. So I remember that it was kind of like a choice between either staying or I had to leave. So of course I chose, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and leave. I was working at Little Caesars, and by the way, we all know how I feel about Little Caesars.
No, let's not go into
All right.
detail with the hate for Little
we
Caesars.
we know how I feel about that. But I was working there at the time, and I was also in college, but I wasn't taking it serious because I had just got promoted to assistant manager. So that was a distraction that I paid attention to during that time. Was, oh, assistant manager money. It was more than what I was used to, just a little bit more. It was like I went from like 750 to like 8, $9 somewhere in there. You find to me that was major. Now,
As an assistant
as an
manager?
assistant manager, yeah, Little Caesars.
Mm.
So it was more money. So I was like, oh man, I can do this. It can give me an apartment. Like there was managers in there as well that had their own apartments. So I was like, I can get my own apartment. So I wasn't taking school serious. So and then again back to it, I had an ultimatum either staying or going. So I had got connected with one of my managers from Little Caesars. When I didn't have a home, she was like, hey, you can come to my crib. So I stayed with her for a few months. And it got to a point God was like slowly stripping stuff from me. So like I couldn't get back into college because of a class I messed up on. So I had to write an appeal for that. I had to
Mm,
wait for the appeal. And I
mm,
was like, man, I'm just rocking Little Caesars. And I remember it was a night my manager didn't come to the door, and I ended up having to sleep in my car that night. And that's really where God broke me down. And that's where I built my I believe it's hyper independence, if I'm correct. Is it hyper independence?
yeah, hyper
Hyper independence.
independence.
That's where I built hyper independence. But God broke me down that night. He was like, that's where I heard him clearly. He was like, you're not where you're supposed to be. And I was like, okay, got
Mm,
you. And so I was like, and that's when my hyper independence came in, because I was like, I'm never going to, and it wasn't because of my manager. It happened how it was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? I still love it to this day.
right.
Um, and you know what I'm saying? We're absolutely fine to this day. And so it was like I'm never going to be in a position where I have to depend on somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because I never want to
Got
feel
you.
this again,
Got you.
like sleeping in my car. And it was that was it. So I was still working at Little Caesars. I got back into school, and I worked two jobs. I worked taking care of my aunt Deb. She had MS. I was a caregiver, and I also worked at Little Caesars. Um, I swapped out from Little Caesars. Still took care of my undid, worked at FedEx, left FedEx, worked at one of my favorite spots I used to work at to this day, Music City indoor karting. I worked there, and then I stopped there for a while, and then it gets worse. I worked at Moe's. I worked taking care of my aunt. I worked at it was a mattress spot I used to work at, and I used to work at the go kart track every once in a while. So I was working 4 jobs at one point. And so like yeah,
Sheesh.
I was working hard, bro. It was really really hard. And so I carried that with me all the time. I was like, and I kind of put self-worth in my worth ethic, you know what I'm saying? So like if I wasn't working, I didn't feel as if I was worthy enough or I was doing enough. I'm only as good as much as what I can do. So that
Got
came
you.
into our relationship. So all I thought about was providing. You know what I'm saying? Like my main thing is taking care of home, but I only gave myself that identity of providing for my home rather than having the identity that God gave me. I'm more than just a provider. I'm a best friend. I'm a I'm a soon to be husband. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different identities that I have rather than just a provider. So that's not what God just called me to. So um it was as it progressed, I got a job down here, and I worked really, really hard. It was really long shifts, and then with those long shifts came, well, it's finna rhyme, so it's finna be some bars. With those shifts came a rift in between our relationship, and so that's
Yeah.
where we had our hard time. We almost part ways, but you know, what I mean, that's not what God had designed. So and it kind of
Right,
showed
right.
me, and you broke it down to me during the time I couldn't understand where I went wrong until we both really dedicated our lives back to God and got into the ministry we're in now with prophetess and breaking down hey man, like this is your identity, is what God called you to be as a man. So I'm like, okay, I see where I left babe uncovered. So where I was like, I'm just a provider. Like I thought that was me, just me doing enough because that was my identity as a man.
Right.
So I was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So like if I have that lens of hey, I'm doing just enough, you know what I'm saying, of just by providing, you know what I'm saying, being a man, not doing the other things of being your other half, being there when you need me. Like there was plenty of times where I left you uncovered. So God kind of came in with our ministry and showed me like, hey bro, like you're more than this. And you know what I'm saying? You can't leave your castle uncovered. And that's really what it was.
Got you. Um, so I'm just curious because like I know the answer. But of course, of course my audience doesn't know the answer, but um do you believe that the hyper independence, do you believe that started for you really in childhood, or do you really believe that it just kind of started in that moment when you had to sleep in your car?
I would say it kind of started in childhood too. I thank God now today that my relationship with my mom is absolutely a whole lot better than it was. We God, now we'll get later into that. This is just a little sneak peek. How God really worked it out for her and I. My mom and I, we've always kind of bumped heads my whole life pretty much, and almost to 30, we've got to a point like, hey man, we both wrong. We got to my mom and I had got to a point where we both apologized, and but it started from childhood because of my mom my mom and I, like I said, we always bumped heads, but we weren't really kind of too involved with each other, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I mean, the things that I wanted from my mom was providing for me, if I'm saying, she was always out working. So like when I wanted my mom to be around, she couldn't be there because she was trying to make sure that I was fine. So I was like, you know what, I'm not getting this from her, so I need to figure out how to get it for myself. So it kind of came with people pleasing too. If I'm saying, like, if I do the right thing around people, or if I'm saying to get them to like me, they'll stay around me type stuff. So yeah, it started in childhood too.
Um, Jerry Flowers. I know my audience be like, you always talking about Jerry Flowers. Yes, I am. Jerry Flowers has been a huge influence in my walk with Christ outside of my spiritual mom, who is also the prophet of our ministry. Outside of her, Jerry Flowers has been a huge impact on both of our journeys with Christ. And I remember Jerry saying, I don't remember what sermon series it was from, but I remember Jerry saying that our parents are the first introduction of God that we have in our
Yeah.
lives. And so I'm just curious, like, for you, because it seems like in that moment when you were homeless, you weren't really homeless. You
That
weren't
was
homeless, but you had to sleep in your car for a night. You wasn't homeless. You had
yeah.
places to go,
This is true,
okay?
but yeah,
But but in that moment, it felt like you was homeless. You was sleeping in your
yeah,
car. You know what I'm saying? So, but it sounds like from that moment, you really kind of like put God in the back seat, and you depended on yourself and self
yeah.
only. So, do you feel like your childhood and do you feel like your childhood and the situation where you ended up sleeping in your car tainted your perspective of who God is in your life, or who God wanted to be in your life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say that. I'll add to, since you said that, I have another quick story. I had a when I was working at Little Caesars, I had some questions asked. Somebody had asked me about my faith. If I'm saying they didn't believe, but they hit me with some questions that I couldn't answer, and so with that, I kind of stopped believing in God. I believed He was there, but I didn't fully believe.
Mm,
So God broke me down to a point
got
where
you.
to show me that, hey, I am real. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what that kind of came in with the hyper independence, with that, with trusting in God in a way.
Got you. Yeah, because I know for me, like, I would say, like, with my dad, I feel like he would have probably been the main influence that kind of tainted my view of God. I definitely had a view of, if I don't behave right, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, God's not going to love me, or God's not going to give me blessings and all these different things. And it got to a point where I felt like I was performing for God, because I had to perform for my father to be in my life. And if I acted this way, he would show up. If I acted this way, he wouldn't show up. And so that really, for me, tainted my perspective of God. And even after my mom passed, I really dealt with wanting to control my own
Yeah,
life. You know
yeah,
that. With my journey with dealing with witchcraft and things like that, which I really want to go more into detail about that. I'm not gonna do that today, but um God really revealed to me that the reason why I was so prone to going into that world was because I was seeking control of my life, especially after my mom had passed. That was the one thing in my life that I couldn't
yeah,
control. I couldn't bring her back. There was nothing that I could do to bring her back. So I wanted to control every other aspect of my life. And I thought that witchcraft was going to give that to
yeah,
me. When in reality, it came with a whole bunch of other stuff that I did not, was not expecting.
yeah,
That's why I'm like, that's why I don't understand when people be doing all that. I'm like, there is no way you just living a peaceful life. There's
yeah.
no
You
way.
gotta leave them rocks
It just
alone.
really isn't. You have no power, okay? um, so you moved to
Yeah,
Atlanta. We both moved to
we,
Atlanta. We both we both surrendered our lives to
yeah,
God. Um, we rededicated our relationship. Because God called us to stop living in
yeah,
sin. And I know that that was something difficult for the both of us, but we really took our relationship and our calling
Yeah.
seriously with God. And as a man who wants to provide for his family, um wants to provide for me, and the situation that you're in now is a very, very, very unique situation. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna call it. A unique situation. Um, and just to give a little backstory, if that's
Yeah, I'm cool
okay.
with that. Ain't no shame.
So Daveion is currently no longer working his regular 9 to 5 job. And Daveion, as long as I've known Daveion, he has always had a job. He ain't never been a Negro sitting around the house not doing nothing. Okay. He always working. And um this situation has been very uncomfortable for the both of us, to a certain extent. And we have both had to be in a place of surrenderance to
Amen.
God when it comes to this situation, and trusting God not just with his future but with our future and with my future. um and I know people are like, well, just go out and get a job. And there's been people who are giving their opinion, and, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. How, as a man in this moment, because now you are in a place of surrenderance to God, how did you get there? Because honestly, I feel like it was just like one day you was just like, you know what, I'm tired of doing it my
Yeah.
way. I'm just gonna surrender to God. Like, it was like one day you just woke up and you were like, nah, bruh, I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna surrender everything to God. That's literally how it looked to
Yeah.
me. But I want to know what happened eternally within you, that you decided, I can no longer control these things. I have to give this to God.
Are we talking about with the situation that's happening now, like recently with surrendering, or just in general?
Um, just in general, because you had to get somewhere before you got to where you are
Gotcha.
now.
I kind of got to a point, and then I'll explain with this situation where like it's more surrenderance, and I have something God told me to say as well. Um, you get to a point where you fighting God so much, and you, from saying, the thing is, you fight God so much to the point and you keep losing, bro. You might as well, bro. Like, you might as well just listen, bro. Like, he like, look, bro, I've been showing you this is the way it's gonna go. But Lord, I want it to go this way. You can't already have your mind made up on what you want God to say, because you know what I'm saying. It's so many opportunities that He has for you. You know what I'm saying. That's might be way better. Now, I'm not gonna say might. That is way better than what you have for yourself. So don't be afraid of the planning season when He has you planning. Now, when it's planted, you ain't gonna see no fruit. You know what I'm saying? You like, bro, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying?
You
You
planting, you planting.
you
That's it.
planning, so like, you know what I'm saying? God's trying to get you to the point where you're providing rather than just consuming. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm looking, hey, bro, I could be making so much money over here, but God, like, hey, I'm planning you right here, so you can be producing your own stuff. But you know what I mean? I'm like, nah, God, I need to get that in order to do that. But God, like, look, bro, I'm telling you what to do. This is the plan. You know what I'm saying? Follow the syllabus, bro. I'm like, look, bro, but this is what I want to do. Like, it can't, it constantly, every time I would try, it would always reroute back to, hey, this is what we doing. I'll get so far with something. He like, all right, this is what we doing. I'm like, okay. But we gonna go over here real quick, guys. No, this is what we doing. So I got tired of the rerouting back to the same spot of, hey, this is the plan. That I was like, you know what? Look, bro, let's just do the plan, bro. As much as I try to do, as much as I try to do these other plans, bro, it is not working, bro. So I just kind of got to that point of, I was only disappointing and hurting myself by trying to have control over it. And now, until I fully gave it to God, is where the fulfillment came. So you have to give stuff to God. So like the current situation I'm in right now, It was uncomfortable, but during my un, during my uncomfort, God showed me comfort. He showed me constant confirmations of, bro, I got you. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
as long as you take the time to focus on me, is where I'll give you comfort. Now, the time that you take your eye off of me is when you're gonna feel discomfort. So I was like, okay, let me take this time to keep my eyes on you. You know what I'm saying? So, um, standing up, like I wanted to be more involved in our ministry. And so during just me being available for the ministry is when the doors help being open. If I'm saying so, I was like, wow, just me being obedient and being open for God to use me is where you really get your reward from. And this isn't just saying,
amen.
oh, all I gotta do is what God say and I'll get rewarded. No, you have to have your heart in the right place. You know what I'm saying? Now
Yeah,
you can't. The one thing God know you can't manipulate them. You can't. That's one thing you
no,
can't do.
you cannot manipulate
You
God. You really
like
can't.
God, I've been doing them tithes now. You gonna bless me, bro.
Where my blessing?
You got me, bro. God is not God, God is not an investment, bro. this this is someone you from saying who knows the ins and outs, the in and outs of you. Everything about you. Before you even think it, he knows what's going on. He like, come on, bro.
Right.
Like I know what you doing. You might not know what you're doing, but I know
Mm,
what you're doing.
but I know what you're doing.
So he got me to that point, and he has connected me with the right people, with Babe, Prophetess, and there's a gentleman I've been watching named Calvin Hill, and I was blessed enough to be able to get into his one-on-one course, and he's been an absolute blessing. He's a awesome man of God, but he hasn't given me any fluff, like any fluff, give me no runaround, like stuff I've invested in. I've tried to do. It's been kind of like a runaround. You know what I'm saying? And I've always kind of always left questioning. And in our first two sessions, it's been fire. It's been absolute fire. So um, I'm very excited for where God's taking me, but I'm very happy that I'm at a point now that I'm starting to trust him when even though I don't understand or I don't see what he has on the other side of me. It's like this is the time where he's really been building my faith. So how can I be what he's called me to be if he's not installing certain things in me for me to go be a blessing to other people? So I want to make sure that whatever he's doing for me right now in this season, that I'm able to not not just one to be able to be a pillar in my community, but for um for me be able to testify about it and tell people how great God's been. So yeah,
Amen. I love that you said that. I I've literally watched you go from being worried and stressed and consumed with not having a job and not having, the finances and all these different things. I've watched you, y'all. He was up a couple weeks ago. He was up to like 7 in the morning. I'm about ready to get up, get ready for work. I'm like, what are you still doing
yeah,
up? And he was so consumed. The enemy was literally plaguing his mind with doubt and fear and worry. And I'm like, why are you up being worried and plagued by these things? And it's so important that when we're in a position where we are being obedient to God, God is not something I've really learned from our spiritual mom is that God is not going to put you in a position and leave you hanging.
yeah,
Like God is not going to take you from one situation, put you in another situation and be like, all right, that's it. I got you this far. You're on your own. And my spiritual mom puts it like this. Wherever God takes me, he always has a ram in the bush
yeah,
for me. God is a God of order. God is always going to, when God moves you from one situation to another situation, God is never going to say, yeah, quit your job. And then he doesn't give you instruction on what to do.
thanks.
You know what I'm saying? And in Davion's situation, he didn't quit. The job closed. Okay. And God has not instructed him to go out and get another job. God has instructed him to focus in on investing in being a kingdom entrepreneur. And so it's so important that we understand that when God takes us from one situation and puts us in another situation, he is not going to leave
Facts.
us. I feel like so many times we get in these situations of we believe in God, we trust God, but then when it gets hard and we don't see the full picture, we get in a place of fear and worry. And then the enemy comes in and he plagues our
Mm-hmm.
mind. And the enemy's plan is to literally destroy and debunk the very things that God is telling us that he's going to do. Because if we do not believe in what God has called us to do, we will never do it.
Oh,
We will never do it.
can I add to that?
Go ahead.
I just heard this in my spirit. Now, one thing the enemy is going to do, the enemy is going to make you focus on the obstacle. Okay, the obstacle that's in the way. God's going to make you focus on the opportunity to get over the obstacle. You have to see past your situation, and that's what I'm learning how to do. Is even though this is in the way, God is like, hey, bro, I'm on the other side of this. If I'm on the other side of this, this is telling you I have the path for you to get over this obstacle. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I always find myself saying to myself is if God wasn't going to see it through, he wouldn't have called for me to
Facts.
do it. If God wasn't going to see the podcast through, he wouldn't ask for me to do it. If God, whatever it is that God has instructed you to do, if he's asking you to do something, it's because he's going to see it
Facts.
through. There's a bigger picture behind what he's calling you to do. But when we are in situations that are uncomfortable, we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because sometimes what God asks us to do is not comfortable.
Facts.
Me doing a podcast, doing a podcast is cool because can't nobody see me. But posting on social media, I hate that. I don't want nobody seeing my face. I don't want nobody seeing my round face, my rolls and all that. I don't like
But you look
that.
good.
I don't want to be seen on the camera.
You look good. No problem.
But I don't want anybody to see that. It's uncomfortable for me. But guess what? I still do it. Now, I only post Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I'm resting. Y'all won't see me on the weekends. But Monday through Friday, y'all will see me on the internet. But I'm only doing it because I'm obedient to God and I'm trusting that the outcome that he has for whatever it is that he's called me to do is going to come to pass. And I just think it's important for us to understand that we have to surrender and trust God, even when it doesn't make sense. Even when we can't see the finished outcome. And I think as a man, I know my audience is primarily women, but I want the women that are listening, I want them to see and hear what it sounds like for a man of God to surrender to God and be willing. This is the type of man that I'm willing to submit to and lead because he's a man after God's own heart. He's surrendered to God. Like, don't get me wrong. Now, I was always willing to follow and submit to him, but I'm even more willing now because he submitted to God. And that's why I wanted you to come on here, because I want women to understand that when they're in their dating phase, when they're in the marriage phase, whatever it may be, this is what it's going to sound like when a man is surrendered to God. I'm surrendered to God's plan and will for my life, and that's it. And I'm willing to do whatever it is that God is calling me to do as a man, as the leader, as a disciple of Christ. Even if we're going to take the man piece out of it, as a disciple of Christ, this is what it sounds like to be surrendered to Christ. I know that was
that was powerful. That was cool. But can I add to that?
Yeah.
I just want to say to the men that I understand that
who may be listening, because I do have male listeners, maybe like two or three,
Th-
but they on there,
They
they
on the way.
listening.
Okay.
They listening. Well, they really be on YouTube. There's this dude that comments on my videos all the time on YouTube, so he be listening. So
Hey, I'm cool with that. Hey, to any men that are listening, and the men that are on the way to listen, I want you to know this, that submitting to God is easy to do, but it's hard to do at the same time. Okay. Now it's easier said than done, and my submission may be completely different from someone else's submission. Okay. Now, when you have to understand that God is the man who created everything. Okay. So, in order to be in right standing with Him, if I'm saying, you have to be, in order for your house to be in right standing with Him, you have to be aligned with His wishes. And once you align yourself with the things He wants you to do, is when opportunities open up for you to be able to be that man that you want to be. So make sure that you find your identity in Him and not what the world is giving you. A lot of people are going to try to give you their opinions. A lot of people are going to try to tell you what a man should be. Okay. If you go to God, God is going to tell you the exact type of man you need to be. Build a relationship with Him. Once you build that relationship with Him, He'll tell you what you need to do. He'll give you step by step what you need to do. So once He do that, I promise you, everything that you want and your heart desires, the righteous things. I'm not, now there's some wrong things, but the righteous things, He will give you the righteous things, and it'll, as long as you're aligned with what He says to do, it's going to be absolutely awesome for you. So continue to trust in God. Once you trust in God, He'll protect you and take care of your household. So yeah.
and same for women as well. Women, we need to do the same thing. We need to be surrendered to God as well, because there are things that God is calling and asking us to do, even in our singleness. I know, we want relationships, we want the wedding, we want marriage, but we can't even be surrendered and obedient to God in our
Yeah.
singleness. How are we going to be surrendered and submissive to a husband? God is our husband. Jesus is our husband first, and we need to be surrendered and obedient to what we are supposed to be doing in our singleness as women as well. Um, I know earlier you were saying that you struggled with your
Hmm.
identity, and you were had this identity of a
Yeah.
provider. So, as a man who is surrendered to God, and it's not a one time thing, y'all. Like, surrendering to God is an everyday
Constant.
thing. Every day you have to choose to, okay, God, I'm surrendering to this, I'm surrendered to you. It's not just, okay, one day I just wake up and I choose to be surrendered. Every single day is a constant choice and battle to be surrendered to God's
Yeah.
will. But for you, I'm what does it mean for you to be surrendered to God, but what does it mean for you to truly trust God as your provider, as the ultimate provider? Because He is truly the ultimate provider.
Um, for me, it's really um running the play, even though I don't I can't see what's about to happen. So if I'm saying, he's telling me, hey, I need you to follow this, and not understanding why. If I'm saying, even when it doesn't make sense, you have to trust Him. That's where my faith really comes in with Him, is understanding. If I'm saying, I don't always have to know, but as long as I'm obedient, if I'm saying, there's always something that He's trying to show me, or there's something on the other side of this. So that's what it looks like for me, is understanding, even when
Mm.
trusting Him, even when I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, even the faith of a mustard
Yeah,
seed. And that thing, I literally sometimes literally go and Google mustard seeds. They are so
they are.
tiny. Just a little bit of faith, that small, can do wonders. So I think this season of your life is such a blessing to be able to witness, because I see your faith building. I see your transformation. I see the work that God is doing within you, and it's so beautiful to see because I know where you used to
Yeah.
be. And of course, like, God always gives me a glimpse of certain things. So I'm like, I see where you're going. I see it. And so to see that you're actually like, okay, God, whatever it is you need me to do, I'm willing to do it, is such a blessing to
Yeah.
see. And I think that we all kind of get to a place like that in our walk with Christ, where we get to a place of, I'm tired of fighting against God's will,
Yeah.
and I'm just ready to be fully surrendered. And if you haven't come to that place yet in your walk with Christ, I really encourage you to get to that place, because honestly, trying to fight God's will with your will is, you ain't
You're
gonna
gonna lose
win.
every time.
Okay, you're gonna lose every single time. And since this fight is fairly new, it ain't gonna be no Mike Tyson and Jake Paul type of fight. Okay, it's not rigged. Okay, the Lord is not gonna let you win because you old and you tired. Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
honestly, if we being honest, I'll use it like this: it's not gonna play out that way. Cause really, how it should have played out is Tyson should have won, Jake should have lost. But I'm using that as a scenario because that is what we look like when we're fighting God. We're, if it's already rigged. Like, honestly, it's rigged. You're not going to win. It's rigged from the very beginning. God is going to win
Yeah.
regardless. So you can get in the ring, you can try to fight with God, but you're not going to win. It's there's no way to win against God. You have to surrender to his will. I think I talked about that a couple weeks ago when I was talking about how I used to want to be a lawyer, or maybe I was talking about it on TikTok. I can't remember, but the point
You talked
is,
about
I too have.
it. You talked about it.
That's right. I talked about it, but I've also been in a place where I've had to surrender to God, even on my own journey. Um, as we wrap this up, babe, I love saying that,
Yeah.
babe. But as we wrap this up, I would love for you to just share some practical ways that you guard your mind against the negative
Hmm.
thoughts, and just how you remain confident in God's promises when the enemy attacks your faith.
Gotcha. Um, I constantly the biggest thing I remember, well, how I kind of combat the enemy is I pay attention what he says. If he brings up past situations and it's more of condemning, like, oh, see, if you would have did this and this and this and this and this and this, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing this. And you know what I'm saying? It's like an auction. It is just like he keeps stacking. You know what I'm saying? God talks to me real subtle, like, hey, he always gives me he doesn't. Oh, I like what he just gave me there. So, um, the enemy's going to give you pollution, but God's always going to give you a solution when he talks to you. So it's always something to give you confirmation. Hey, you're doing this, but if you would stop this, this is how we get past it. This is how we move forward. You know what I'm saying? He gives you something for you to hold on to push forward to get past your mess. Um, and what was your second question? I just forgot it that quick. I apologize. I'm almost 30.
It's
We're getting to that point.
it's okay. Hey, I understand. I'm almost
Okay.
there too, and I be forgetting stuff. I be walking in the room. I'm like, what did I come up here to get again? Nah, seriously, it's probably all that weed I used to smoke back in the day that burned some of my brain
Okay,
cells. But
agreed.
that's what I
Agreed.
really think it is, because there's no reason why I should be forgetting the stuff that I be forgetting. But anyway, my question was, what are practical ways that, I think you answered
Yeah.
that one, was ways you use to guard, that ways that you guard your mind against the enemy. But how can you remain confident in God's promises when the enemy attacks your faith?
Um, Remain confident is best thing I can tell you is when you follow the plan and he gives you evidence to testify about. So um basically like the blessing behind like the situation I'm in now, we're not working. I'm able to hold on to that because he's given me so many confirmations and blessings during this time that hey bro, I got you. Like with me connecting with Calvin, it's been an absolute again. I talk about this because it's absolutely awesome, and also make sure that you
Yeah.
have the right community around you. So I have a wonderful ministry around me. Also, I haven't talked to him in a while. Also, man of God, my little brother E. He was on the podcast. Having that right community around you, when uh when you have the right community around you, they can see the bigger picture when you're zoomed in on the problem. So make sure that
Mm,
you have the right community around you to help you out. God connected the right people in your life at the right time because there's certain things you can't do by yourself. So make
yeah.
sure you again, I keep saying it, make sure you have the right community. You know if you have the right community or not. Okay. Um
You do.
but when you have that, bro, it's such a blessing. Again, it's just such a blessing because we all help each other in a certain way, and without each other, if I'm saying, um, we can't really be effective. You can do a lot by yourself, but with the right people, you can do so much more. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. No, it
Okay.
does. It does. And I do want to point out is another reason why, just to give you encouragement as well. Another reason why I trusted God with the journey that He was taking you on was, um, once again, a ram in the bush. Calvin, this person that Daveion watches on TikTok, he teaches people how to invest in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell y'all, this man gives out free game like I have never heard it
Fire.
before. Okay. This man said that he would never do what he's doing currently. And I'm not saying that God, set it up for only Daveion or, anything like that. But if I wanted to be cocky about it, if I wanted to be bold about it, I could say that, you know what? God set this up specifically for Daveion. That was his ram in the
It was.
bush, but it also is going to benefit everyone else that was able to join and be a part of the mentorship as well. So yes, I am going to be cocky. It's not even really being cocky. I'm going to be bold and know that God put it on Calvin's heart to start a course around the same time that Daveion lost his job.
Yeah.
So I am going to be confident and say that that was Davion's ram in the bush because I've heard him say it numerous of times on live. I would never start, I would never do a course. I wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden, when after he loses his job, Daveion, you know, he decides to do a one-on-one mentorship. That's nobody but
Amen.
God. So if I can constantly be open and aware of what God is doing in my life, that's the thing is sometimes we're so focused on the problem that we actually miss the signs that God is giving to us to say, hey, I got
Yeah.
you. But if we're so focused on the problem, we will never see the fullness and the fruit and the things that God is trying to show us because we're so focused on, I don't have a job, I lost my job. And God is like, well, I called for you to be an entrepreneur. I'm setting you up to be an entrepreneur, but you're missing it because you're so focused on not having a 9-to-5
Yeah.
job. And that's just for him. That may not be for everybody else because everybody's not called and meant to be an entrepreneur. But him specifically, I know is called and anointed for entrepreneurship. So if he was focused on, I don't have a job, I don't have this, I don't have that, he would have missed the opportunity to be a part of the mentorship with
Yeah.
Calvin. Because guess what? He may have been at his 9-to-5 job when Calvin went live and announced that he was
The
starting
mentorship.
the one-on-one
Yeah.
mentorship. So just being open and being aware of the signs of God.
Mm-hmm.
can also play such a huge part in being mindful and watchful for the ram in the bush that God is giving to us in the midst of whatever uncertainty, whatever it is that's going on. So I just wanted to add that to that, just as an encouragement for you, but also so that the audience knows that be watchful and be open. Do not allow yourself to be so focused on the problem. My spiritual mom puts it like this: things will affect you, but don't let it infect you. And when you're infected, you're not able to hear, see, or do the things that God is asking for you to do.
Yeah.
You had your hand up. I don't know why you had your hand up. You could just say whatever you wanted to say.
What you said just kind of, one thing I love, and I'm very grateful for you, is because we're able to bounce off each other. I really appreciate that. God just gave me something to say, and I want to say this to whoever this may be for. Just because God's telling you to be still doesn't mean he's not moving. To whoever that may be, just because you don't see the evidence, not that you don't see the reward right now of him telling you to stick out whatever he needs you to stick out, doesn't mean that he's not going to bless you. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean the reward's not coming or it's close. Okay, so make sure during this time you're being still, that you stay in the face, and make sure that you're able to hear him. And when the reward comes, you will be grateful for being still. So yeah.
Amen. Thank you so much for sharing it, babe.
No
Thank you so much. So extra. I love y'all so much. I hope that today's episode really blessed y'all. I hope that it really encourages you to trust God, even in the midst of uncertainty, even in the midst of, the darkest trials and tribulations, to continue to just seek God, trust God, and surrender to God. And I think it's so important that we are doing that. Like, I believe that there is still some things that God is going to bless and do before the end of the year, but we will not be able to experience them unless we are surrendered to God. And so I'm just encouraging you to surrender and continue to just be obedient to what God is calling you to do in the season of your life. No matter what the season may look like, wilderness, valley, whatever it is, continue to be surrendered and continue to be obedient to what God has called and asked for you to do. I love each and every single one of you guys. Thank you so much, babe, for joining me on my podcast today. I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Too. Thank you.
I am so much in joy of watching you become the man of God that you have become, and the what you are becoming in Christ. And so it's such a blessing to be able to see. Thank you again for being on my podcast. Like I said, I love each and every single one of y'all. Peace, love, and blessings. T. Louise.
God bless.